Now we need head gaskets. Okay, we're running our Cometic MLS gaskets. Again, this is the only gasket that I'll use on a Derby engine. Okay, these are our World Product Sportsman 2. Gotta get them stickers, bro. Alright, if you notice, I'm just being careful to hold it by the edge of the gasket, not get it all fingerprinted or nasty, even though my hands are clean. Yeah, hands are still clean. Always gotta check, you never know. Yeah, plop this guy right in place also. Starting to look like an engine again. Nice. Very nice. Something we do, small block Chevy head bolts go into water. So if they go into the water passage, then that means they can leak from the water passage. Once they're full of water, it's highly likely they'll leak. Once they're pressurized, after running a little while, it's more highly likely that they will leak. And if they start to leak, they will not seal up just because they want to. They will leak until you seal them up intentionally. Just take a little precautionary measures. And there's 17 head bolts per side. And there's really short bolts, there's pretty long bolts, and then there's 2 medium length bolts per side. We torque our heads to 70, but if you're going to go in increments, we'll go to 50 first, after we get a short water break. If you're worried about that impact, I just pulled on that, we're at 30. That was a good, even snug. We got them all at 50 now. So we'll switch and go to 70. Tote of lifters and valvetrain parts. Lay them in there. They've been cleaned, inspected, and I am pleased to say we have no failures there. Just discoloration. And on this engine package, we do use very quality parts, even though, for those of you who don't know about Derby stuff, you know, and think, oh, these guys just go crash the cars. Well, we put really good quality parts in our engines just so they survive. I mean, there's definitely way better parts out there, but as far as an engine to go crash cars, this has got some premium stuff in it. So we've got Morel lifters, packed valve springs, comp, custom ground cam, all the things to make this thing a real hot rod. Normally, I would have an oil pan on at this point, and I would just dump a quart of oil in here on top of them. But since dummy me forgot to get that silly gasket, I'm just going to lube all these. This is a solid roller. You got 10-degree locks, 10-degree retainer. Well, obviously, comp 10-degree retainers with locks, 5/16, 80 thousandths wall push rods. And a lot of these engines could get by on less. But this particular package, we call it the Karen. She likes to be nasty to people. And I want to make sure she's got the parts in it to make her run like I want her to run. So Karen gets premium parts. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're also using a Comp Magnum steel rocker. Believe it or not, we've got a couple customers out there running shaft rockers. Sky's the limit on this slippery slope. We can basically build you as much power as you can afford. Of course, as you go up, the parts get a lot more expensive. Up in power and RPM, the parts get a lot more expensive. It's all just silly. Just silly boys and their toys. More power to them. You know, if I was better at time management, I'd be in bed right now. Instead, I'm out here making videos with you guys, putting this engine together, having a good time. I really am. Probably just be a little grouchy tomorrow. Lash is 12 and 14. All right, ready for it? Pro tip. I better get a drink. Hold that thought. Okay, pro tip. These little ratchet sets, they're through holes. You've seen them. Sockets are through holes. These are those tools that you swore you'd never buy because you never would use them. You never would need them. Someone got me these for Christmas one time. And they sat in a box, probably, not even in the toolbox, for a really long time. And I stumbled upon them one day and decided to try them. They're perfect for U-bolts, but poly locks, look at this. Doop. You can twist here, you can twist here. It's all independent. Lift it up, move to the next one. This is great. Pro tip. Now I forgot what lash I had. It's 12 and 14. 12 and 14. Let's do it. We're going to adjust the valves. So we're going to open our intake all the way. Watch it start to close. So this is our intake valve. We're going to rotate it. Get that out of there. So rotate. So there it's opening. Go until it starts to close. Feel it closing. So now we're going to adjust our exhaust. Our exhaust is 14. So I adjust it by hand first. I get it to where it's got a slight drag. And I come in, ram the set screw all the way down. I back it off about 1/8 of a turn, and I cram it back. That's pretty nice. So, rotate over. We're going to wait for this exhaust to start to open. Starts to open. We'll adjust our intake to 12. So, same thing. Do it by hand first. Get a little drag. Okay, got it. T-handle all the way down. 1/8 turn. Bring it back. That's a little loose. Let's see if you can sometimes cheat it and get what you need. Yeah. This is a 7/16 stud, so you're all right. Passenger side, give you a little closer look. Intake starts to open, or it opens all the way, starts to close. We can adjust our exhaust. So watch this guy start going down. Starts to go down. We can adjust this one. So we take our feeler gauge, 14. We'll slide it in there. Bring our ratchito. Okay, start with your fingers. That on there, set your jam, 1/8 of a turn. So now we wait for the exhaust to start to open. Watch this one. There, gets a little rise. We go right in here to our intake. Start with your fingers. Give it one of those. Something else to notice is that when I'm tightening this, I'm also turning this. When you jam them together, that is your lock. That is what creates the lock in the polylock system. Just jamming the set screw will not do the job. You have to jam them together. So here's where we can go through. We've adjusted our valves. We've got pistons. We've got rings. Everything's in there. So we can go through and check compression really quick and just make sure every cylinder is making pressure. So we'll start with number 1. Okay, just do the firing order. So 1, 8, 4, this cylinder here, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. Then go back to 1. And then I like to bring it up to top dead center and leave it like that. All right, intake time. Okay, so on the intakes, I normally we use the right stuff. I use ultra black RTV everywhere on these engines, but on the intake and the China rail, and sometimes between the oil pan gasket and the block or the timing cover, I'll use this or ultra black. Just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. So I'm going to take this and I'll just run a smeared bead around each water port, and then we'll put the intake gaskets on. Then we'll grab the intake, set it on here, and get a height for the China wall, and then we'll pull it off and we'll run a bead there. So we just run a smeared, like I said, a smeared bead. I don't want this to be anything height-wise. I'm not trying to build anything up. I'm just trying to put something there for the gasket to stick to, and if there is any void in the water area, I want it to be taken care of by this. But really, it's just something to hold the gasket in place while we're putting the intake on and dropping it. So, and again, this doesn't need to be a buildup. If you got an old crappy cylinder head that's got a lot of rot, because some of them like to rot right there, corrode, however you want to call it, then yeah, you might be trying to build something up. But this is a brand new set of heads when you ran it, so these heads are in good shape, great shape actually, and we just want to make sure that we get it to seal. So I'll pinch the runners and then make sure it raises up enough to reach there, to make sure the blue part of the gasket is actually going to touch the cast iron and not just fold under. I'll bring you in for a closer look. Let's take a closer look. Just like that, we're going to take our intake gasket, drop it on the other side, and then I'll just take and squish what little RTV is there, and then I'll take these, make sure they're centered, feel kind of how they are here and here. And then the other thing, some of these gaskets will be goofy, so make sure that your bolt holes are going to go, your bolts will go in when you drop the intake on. We have RPM, air gap, dual plane, beautiful piece of intake. And we run the cooling hoses on these. That way, as long as they still have the radiator functioning in their car, it will cool better. There you go. You can see kind of what we're working with here. I made sure our bolt holes are lined up. Probably needs to go about like that. That'll square up our edge a little bit. All you gotta do is just fill that gap, however much it is. So we'll lift the intake back off, set it over off to the side for a memento. I didn't show you the China wall in the back, but it was relatively close to the same up here. So I'm gonna start this on the intake gasket itself, but just a light smear. So I just put it like that, and then I go to town on squeezing this thing. Got a little crazy there, and then smear up there. So doesn't have to be anything wild, doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just needs to be there and be consistent. So kind of ugly, but it will function. All right, going for the plunk. Nice good press back there. It's already squishing out up here. On stock small block Chevy heads, the holes go through to the crankcase. They'll go through the crankcase, sorry. You need to put RTV on them, or else they'll dribble oil out and leave a nasty residue on your intake. On the aftermarket heads, most of them are sealed, but some of them aren't, and it's usually the center ones. Like these outside corners, they're sealed. They're not leaking anything. That's never going to happen. And I usually go around the intake when I'm putting bolts in it, just running them in finger tight, getting them started. You got time here. There's no reason to get crazy and rush and all that mess and then really mess something up. Nobody's got time for messing stuff up. Now I'm going to take a wrench and I just go around each intake bolt and kind of try to give it even pressure. Whoa, what is that alarm for?
It's 4:05 a.m.
4:05 a.m. Well, I guess it's almost time to get up. We're just going to go ahead and turn all those off. So I was saying before my alarm to wake up went off, just going to go around to each intake bolt one at a time and snug them with the wrench. That way I know I'm getting an even pull on all of them. Now, if you're tightening these bolts down, you got globs and goo of RTV coming out, you use too much. That's all there is to it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You use too much RTV. Intake, check. Okay, dipstick can go in. Gonna go right there. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock. Been to town already. Got 2.5 hours of sleep. Just happy to be here. 90% of the time this belt works on these engines, but I had one of those feelings like, hey, belt might not work. Yep, I don't know why I had that feeling, but it's too short. That's okay. So we're going back to town. But it's good to know, since we know we have to go back to town here in just a few minutes with Cole. Now we know that when we go, we'll have to go get a belt also. So we can wipe all this off again for the last time. Pesky gasket that I didn't have. Here's where we got to do some trickery. I put 2 bolts in this, one in the top and one in the bottom. So we got to pop this off just enough to get that gasket in, but not enough to pull the seal off of the crankshaft. So if you look right in here, there's a dowel pin that's got to go, and this side doesn't have anything. So you got to clear that dowel. Hello, hello. Hey, I am now, but I'm getting ready to come in because I got to take Cole to Carmine here in a little bit. Alright. Alright, I'll be in there in just a minute, okay, buddy? Alright, thanks, pal. Alright, so just snake that around there, and now it's where it needs to go. I'm going to drop this bolt back in. Also, this bolt, and put it back in, because the gasket is correct. It's hard to see what we're doing here, but if you've ever messed with one of these, it makes sense. Just remember, it's going to be way easier and way better to do this off the engine. Or off the engine stand, rather. Let's see if we can wiggle that in there. See, just like that. Can't do anything about it because that one. Pesky one. So for what we can do is bust this loose, slide it out of the way, get that one in there. Just an extra step. Frustrating extra step. But it's the way the cookie crumbles. Let's get that away. Now, voila. Put it on there. Let me go and tighten all those. So I always lay it in place, test it. Like, I know it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but there are a few oil pan changes in small block Chevy world, so you want to make sure you've got the right one. So then we're going to take our right stuff. All I do is a very small bead from bolt hole, smear, and then a small bead up and over the timing cover, and smear back over the bolt hole. Same back here on the rear, except for where the parting line is for the rear seal adapter. I come across that with that small smear, then just a smear up and over, and then back across the parting line. Yeah! And I never ever have the dipstick in place when I do this, so don't do that. It's just silly. Alright, oil pan has been cleaned, but one of the culprits is this drain plug, so when you get that out, I want it to come out before we put it on the engine. That way if there was any problems. Check that out. Not much left of that junker. She definitely melted flat, paper thin. Okay. So then I don't put any RTV on this side of the rubber. Typically, you get a good enough squeeze. I think squeeze would be a proper word. You get a good enough seal. You don't have problems out of these things right there. So I'm going to take my 4 corner bolts and get those started first. And just started. Only started. Because sometimes that's a booger enough. Like that one, it's going to be in a pain. So I'm going to hit it with this guy so I can give it a little bit of down pressure. Yep, so that started now. That started. That one started. And that started. So then I can come back. Take my small 3/8 bolts, quarter 20 bolts that have a 3/8 head on them, and get all them started, basically doing the same thing. Pro tip. That's been fun. If you have multiple bolts to start in an item or device, or to tighten, start them all first. Because if you start and tighten them one at a time, inevitably, you won't be able to get them all in. So, see, there's one. She's a little pesky. Way out. Just run them down, snug them. Because we got to turn around over here and pull this side down, and it's never going to be happy trying to do that. So as I'm doing that, I always come back to the center to see that the center is staying snug. Because as you pull the pan down, the bolts around will pull the pan down, or one in the middle may just dent the pan rail, which is not what you want to do. So kind of bounce around back and forth like a gasketed surface. Should be snug or tightened, and then come back and hit them all again. And then I'm going to go back to my corner bolts now and put them down. They're supposed to be. Just like that. Oil pan's on. Brass washer on it this go around, and hopefully that resolves our issues. We ran these in the past, we just had some issues with them leaking, so tight is what we do. We're not done anyway, so might as well bolt the starter on while it's easy to get to. That. Yeah! Embrace my inner ninja. Wowzer. Okay. Alright, came back from O'Reilly's. Got a couple belts. It's usually what you have to do when you don't have the right one the first time. So, bingo! This one's going to be the right one. Perfect! You'll get a bolt. Zip, zip. We're really just test running this engine. The customer will have his own fan spacer and whatnot to go on here. So, I'll just put 2 bolts in it. That's really all it needs. That's a lot of our race car stuff. Only runs 2 bolts. We need to get oil pouring, valve covers washing, all the things. Dirty old valve covers, we're gonna go wash them off. Look at those beauties now. They're clean, shiny, perfect. We're gonna give this the old prime job here. We got oil on half of our rockers. Again, I always do this with the engine turning tool on here, but because of time. There's that one. All right. So that concludes all the rockers are oiling like they should. This is our MSD unit. This is a ready to run distributor, and I've already got it marked for number 1, so we want number 1 pointing there. Seems likely. These come with spring-loaded clamps, but in the derby world, you cut those out, and they also come with threaded screws, and you run the threaded screws because the spring-loaded stuff will move as you hit or take hits. Nobody got time for that, so caught that with my foot. Okay, we'll advance the timing a little bit. About right there. Pretty good place for it. And I'm just going to button the rest of this up, and then I'll show you all a video of this thing running. Button this all up, I'll show you a video of it all running.